welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing a new film from Hulu, Big Time Adolescence. So with everyone quarantining, staying in place, I thought I would take the opportunity to check out more streaming films, and I had never really checked out a Hulu original movie. I'd obviously seen Netflix movies, Amazon movies, so I figured let me give Hulu a shot. I have to say, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by this one. So this film is about Monroe and his older friend Zeke, and kind of their relationship, and it's a coming-of-age tale. It's showing Monroe's adolescence, how he's growing as a person. Now, Pete Davidson plays Zeke in this, and I have to say, I don't have a really problem with Pete Davidson, but I was surprised seeing him in this role. I haven't seen him, obviously, in a lot of movies. He's known mostly for SNL and his stand-up, but I thought he did a really good job. He's pretty much playing himself. It is right in his wheelhouse. This feels like a role that was molded perfectly for him, and he plays it really well. He's charming. He's the lovable mess-up. You get frustrated with him, but you root for him. He strikes that balance pretty well. There are times where it's incredibly frustrating because he is someone that is constantly messing up and isn't thinking a couple steps ahead, but you do get some really lovable, laughable moments with him. And while you may not necessarily get a completion of his arc throughout the story, the element of his character is used really well. Now, Monroe, played by Griffin Gluck, I thought also did a surprisingly good job. He is, your main protagonist. He's your typical coming-of-age character, someone who's kind of misguided, a little awkward and goofy, and he's trying to, become popular. He thinks all he needs to do is become popular, and he's being molded by Zeke in maybe not the best ways. And I thought that relationship was really endearing and, like I said, frustrating, but it made it entertaining to watch. You understand where Monroe's coming from because he sees Zeke as this larger-than-life character, and then he starts to slowly realize that it's all really just a facade. It isn't really the things that are important, and I think that relationship really shone throughout the film. And Zeke's character is really complex. He's someone who on the surface wants to be big. He's living his old glory days in high school. I feel like we all know these people that maybe not left their hometown and they just constantly relive, oh, I used to be really cool and I know all these cool things, and they're kind of friends with younger people because they haven't, graduated from that level. And you just really connect with him. You understand where he's coming from. But then when you see it kind of get stripped back and you see his struggles and his emotional impact of what's happening to him, those were some of the best moments when he kind of breaks down that facade of being this lovable goofball to maybe someone who really is struggling deep down. And when I say goofball, this movie does have some good comedic elements. I feel like at its core, it is mostly a comedy for a lot of it, but it hits home when it needs to hit home. It has some really serious moments, specifically in the third act. And I thought some of the scenes where Zeke is really conflicted were the best scenes. There's a scene in particular where he meets a friend that he knew from back in the day, and he's in the car with Monroe, and he's kind of forced to do something that puts Monroe in a bad situation, and it's him trying to be cool. You see him up against someone who he saw as cool, then trying to look cool for his younger friend. That was an interesting scene. That really drives home what Zeke is dealing with in that scene, I think. Monroe also had some scenes that stole the show. You see him as a kind of awkward, shy person in the beginning as he tries to become this cool guy towards the end, so he's changing who he is, and he has this major argument with a girl that he really likes, and he thinks that he needs to be this fake person. And she kind of tells him, you don't need to be this fake person. And it drives home the moral messages of this film, where you may think that what you're doing is cool, and you may have these older friends that think these things are cool, but at the end of the day, it's all superficial, and you all need to move past that. And I thought there was a scene at the very, very end of the movie, not to give too much away, but it gives you kind of almost a conclusion to Zeke and Monroe's friendship. And that was a really subtle but powerful scene. You're seeing Monroe move on from these things. You're seeing Monroe realize that, this is a dead-end path that this person may be following, and I need to break free from them and maybe, kind of separate. Because at the end of the day, sometimes there are toxic people in your life, and you can give them opportunities and try to help them and do everything you can, but you need to distance yourself. You can't let other people bring you down. There were in a lot of ways this film reminded me of a movie that I really, really love from A24 called the mid-90s, and it's not as gritty as that. It's not as grounded and real as that. This is a far more goofy and accessible film, but I thought it handled those themes just as well, in my opinion. You're dealing with, people that kind of are very impressionable, and they fall into the trap of seeing an older person, an older friend that maybe is trying to live extraneously through them, trying to mold them, thinking that they are having this purpose in life because they're molding this younger person. But it's not the best thing for everyone involved. I thought the overall filming and style of the film, it's nothing really special. It's like your typical, coming of age movie, but it fit. You have some good sets. You have some good scenes where you have maybe Zeke's home. You're seeing the disarray of that. And then you even see a couple areas where they go into the house of someone. You realize their simple and childish life contrasted with this kind of dark, gritty thing. This does happen particularly with Zeke's girlfriend, there's a part where Monroe and goes and visits her house, and you realize that she's kind of this girly girl, and you see her at Zeke's house. It's a completely different world, and I love that contrast between seeing the childish ways of someone and how they try to set things up to be more adult. And there are some interesting cameos by people. Machine Gun Kelly is actually in this movie, and I thought he did a good job. He plays someone who's just kind of that goofy guy that fits to Zeke's mold. He's very similar to that. And I think it works. I think that, you take someone that's kind of a larger than life figure like Machine Gun Kelly and you put him in a movie. I feel like they picked a good role for him. He didn't have to do too much, but he definitely nailed what he was trying to nail. It reminds me almost of Post Malone in Spencer Confidential, which I reviewed a couple weeks ago. And he's just taking someone, giving a little extra for the fans that maybe want to see that. He's probably friends with Pete Davidson, so it's nice that they added that into it. Also, one of the stars of Euphoria was in this film, and Euphoria is another really gritty coming-of-age show that I really enjoyed. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting that gritty, realistic feeling of these things while also having kind of some comedic over-the-top elements, but it never got too ridiculous. It never seemed like too crazy of a movie. It felt grounded enough to get the messages from, get the moral from, without being too goofy. So if I were to rate this movie, I would probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty enjoyable movie. I was surprised I didn't go into it with a lot of expectations. I thought it was going to be some goofy teen movie starring Pete Davidson. It ended up being a movie with a lot of strong moral gravity to it. A movie that really does belong up there with some of the better coming-of-age films in recent years. So if you checked out this film, let me know what you thought about it. Who was your favorite character? Did you feel like Pete Davidson did a really good job in a big major feature film? So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.